contains scenes that may upset. Oh my god, I can't read.
On the 29th of June 2025, a group of teenagers ventured into the Miriam River in Bacabal, Brazil, for a quick morning swim. But after several minutes in the water, the group started to realize that one of its members, 13-year-old Raisa, was no longer beside them. And after calling out her name and searching the surrounding area, the realization set in.
And by the way, if you don't hear a sound, that means I muted the video just so I can talk. I didn't pause that.
The news sent shockwaves throughout the community, and straight away locals filled the area to help find this girl. Their attempts were all futile, and with each passing moment, it grew more and more likely that Raisa had tragically drowned, with the search efforts shifting to recovery efforts the next morning. The tragedy led to various news stations arriving on the scene to help document the search, and for one reporter, Lenildo Frazão, he couldn't help but view Raisa's story as a cautionary tale. The Miriam River is particularly unassuming from the surface, which is exactly what made it so dangerous, since it carried with it an unexpectedly strong current and a bottom that was littered with sudden drop-offs, as even in shallow sections, one step could plunge you into deep water without warning. As a result, tragedies like this had sadly happened here before, and for Lenildo, this was the perfect time to highlight the river's dangers, in the hope of preventing one from ever happening again. And he had a unique idea to help achieve this. Rather than just explaining how dangerous the river was, Lenildo wanted to demonstrate it. And so he began to take off his shoes and his pants before entering the water, with his microphone in his hand.
Foi justamente aqui, pessoal. Nós vamos entrar agora na água aqui para mostrar para vocês o local. Olha, a gente já vê que aqui a água é muito forte, ó. E vai descendo, ó. Ixi, Maria, vai descendo aqui, viu? Ó.
The camera rolled as he waded into the river, at first going just to the depths of his knees, before the riverbed began to drop beneath him, sending the water all the way up to his chest.
Então, pessoal, e aí tá tendo correnteza. Já, olha, ó, passinho para frente.
How's she drowned though? Cause she not swim or something?
He spoke to the viewers at home about how unsafe this area could be, especially for unattended children who weren't strong swimmers. But even with most of
so she wasn't a strong swimmer. Okay,
he wanted to take it even further in order to prove his point. And so he continued wading towards the center of the river, right in the direction of the noticeably fast-moving current.
She got swept in the current, and that's probably how she died. Okay.
Tem pouquinho, pô. A água já tá acima do meu peito, para você ver a situação. Se eu andar pouquinho aqui, deixa eu ver aqui. Ó, vou andar mais. Ó a fundura aqui.
Yeah, stupid. Dummy. I don't know why you worked out. I don't know why you went that further. That was stupid.
Lenildo physically recoiled and let out a
stupid as hell.
He stood there for a moment, anxiously glaring into the water, before telling his crew, "I think there's something down here underwater."
Murky? Huh?
Whatever he had touched in those murky depths didn't seem natural, with Lenildo describing it as being soft. And quickly, he made his way back to the shore, where he further explained why he was so
hell no! What the fuck?
Admitting that what he stepped on felt like an arm.
Oh hell no! You're bugging. You're bugging. You're bugging.
This is the exact moment that many believe Raisa was found, as just moments later, several locals would retrace Lenildo's steps and discover the 13-year-old's body.
Wow! I thought that was like a creature or something.
Raisa had died from an accidental drowning, as she wasn't a strong swimmer, and had likely fallen into the deep water where she was held down by the current. The exact conditions that
she couldn't go up.
The viewers about when he unknowingly stepped on her corpse, with the entire ordeal culminating into what can only be described as one of the darkest moments in television history.
Wow. What was that, an intro? Oh, let me guess. That was the intro story type shit. The darkest moments in history, in TV history. 7.
They're just like you and me. But together they are a source of endless fascination, and will conduct a rigorous scientific experiment.
Okay, I see with the jams. Yes.
It was a peculiar sight. As traffic flowed through one of the UK's busiest roadways, the M6, CCTV cameras captured 2 women walking down the narrow median, with the vehicle speeding past them on either side. These women were Sabina and Ursula Eriksson, 40-year-old identical twin sisters who grew up in Sweden.
The one on the left looked like she that she'll commit to Ireland.
Just one day before this footage was taken, on May 16, 2008, Ursula had made the long flight to visit Sabina at her home in Dublin. But things got off to a troubling start when Sabina got into a verbal altercation with her husband and the father of her 2 kids, prompting both sisters to leave the house in the middle of the night without telling anyone. The next morning, the sisters emerged in the city of Liverpool, where they visited a police station and reported that Sabina's kids were in danger and were unsafe in her husband's care. Law enforcement briefly looked into the matter, but ultimately they didn't seem all too concerned with the children's well-being, and rather they seemed more troubled by the women themselves. Their behavior was just somewhat off, so much so that shortly after leaving the station, they were kicked off a public bus for exhibiting erratic behavior, which some passengers
What does erratic
found
behavior
threatening.
mean?
And after the altercation,
Erratic
this
behavior. I
erratic
heard that many
behavior
times. I just don't
continued.
know what it means.
As for unknown reasons, the pair began walking towards the M6, and then eventually right onto it, where we see them now. It defied any sort of logic, and put them in an extremely dangerous position.
Okay.
A position
Oh,
where
they're like
one
in the
walk
middle of
could
the
lead
highway.
to a horrific accident. And sure enough, that's exactly what would happen, though it was anything but accidental.
Huh? What do you
Without
mean?
warning, both women turned and then ran directly into the road.
Why?
Before Sabina, directly into a car traveling in the fast lane. Immediately, local police were inundated with urgent calls about
Did
the
they
ordeal,
purposely
leading to a
do
group of
that?
officers being dispatched
Or were they
to the
trying to
scene.
cross the road?
Incidentally, the same group just so happened to have a camera crew following them as part of the
Like,
show.
this is like-
Runaway Cops.
I just muted the video. My nigga, this is not I forgot that game called, but that tow game when you gotta cross the road. No, the chicken cross the road. That's the game. This is not the chicken who crossed the road, brother. How do I tell you?
Despite the officers fearing the worst, however, when they arrived on the scene, they were met with a surprising sight. Standing there before them was Ursula and Sabina, who, despite being struck by a car at high speeds, appeared completely unharmed.
How?
In fact, both sisters were entirely calm, as they were shown
How?
casually speaking amongst themselves, as if nothing ever happened. It was a miracle. And as the officers
How did
began
she
trying to
not?
piece together
God must be on her
causes
side
the
for
ordeal,
real.
everyone at the scene began to breathe a collective sigh of relief. There was no way that any of them could have known that their roles had just been cast in one of the most disturbing television scenes of all time.
Oh wow.
We've got, they were in the central race. They were trying to cross the Bravos. So as we approached, they hadn't seen this morning. The red ones got knocked down by the red car over there. I've got an ambulance en route to her. She seems alright, but I'm not a doctor. She has been knocked down.
Is she the one that speaks English or the other one?
The other one, she got...
What the fuck is she doing?
Without a single word,
Oh, that's
was
a crazy
spoken,
bitch right there.
Ursula
That's
dashed
a
into
crazy
the
bitch.
middle of oncoming traffic,
Oh, she
and
crazy.
directly into the path of a massive truck traveling at over 60 miles per hour.
So are they trying to commit suicide? Like,
There was hardly any chance to react, and before anyone
Hell,
could
they-
even begin
what
to
is she
process what
doing?
they had just witnessed, Sabina would also run into the road.
why?
Not her sister, but rather straight into the path of an oncoming Volkswagen.
Oh no! My council, we need ambulance, senior officers.
And she got hit.
Two possible fatals.
Why? Why?
In just seconds,
What type of
this
mental
completely
is?
calm
What type of
scene
mental
turned to
issue
utter
does she have?
chaos, and both
Is she
women were now
crazy?
lying on the pavement. Miraculously, they both were still alive. Sabina was stable but knocked unconscious, while Ursula was in rough shape. Her legs had
course,
been
she ran in front of-
pulverized by the truck.
Of course it
is.
did.
Describing them as looking as if they had exploded.
Oh my
While she lay on
gosh.
the pavement, she was wide awake and experiencing everything. Within seconds of receiving medical attention, Ursula began to cry out. But strangely, it wasn't in pain.
You ran in front of the car.
Rather, she was yelling at the paramedics, cursing and even attacking them for trying to help her.
Calm down. Calm down. Mine's very aggressive, spitting at me.
Shouting things like, "I recognize you.
Huh?
I know you're not real."
Okay, take her to the mental hospital right now.
We are the police.
Take her to Arkham Asylum right now. She need to get her head checked, brother.
Things were about to get even more hectic as Sabina started to regain consciousness. She had been brutally struck by a car, as evidenced by the damage to the vehicle itself.
How
But
is
like
she
Ursula,
okay?
She also appeared almost entirely unfazed as she stood up and began to scream to her sister, "They're going to steal your organs."
What are you talking about?
One of the officers tried to hold her back, but Sabina resisted.
What do they got going on, bro?
Eventually,
What is she? What do they got going on?
once again taking off into oncoming traffic.
No! Stay!
What does she got going?
Stay there! Calm down!
Is she trying to get hit, bro?
Thankfully, this time the cars managed
They want to die, huh?
but it would take 6 officers to finally restrain her. And even with that many people, it was still
Yeah,
a struggle.
go to
As
mental
her strength
hospital,
was unlike
please.
anything that they had seen
They're crazy.
in her size. And with Sabina now subdued, the chaos was finally over. In the following moments, Ursula was airlifted to a local hospital where she underwent an extensive, yet successful emergency surgery, while Sabina was shockingly found to have no injuries, which allowed her to be discharged into police custody after just 5 hours, where she was promptly arrested and sentenced to 1 day in prison for assaulting an officer, as well as trespassing on a motorway. And with both women now safe, one question...
I don't even really call that assaulting an officer.
Why had the Erickson twins
Really,
done
all
this?
she did was push her. All she did was push her off the floor.
Drug use.
And she slipped on the
Surprisingly,
shit.
in toxicology tests, no drugs or alcohol would be found in either of their systems. They were entirely sober during this ordeal, which left only
They're just
one
mentally
possibility,
crazy.
that
All
this
of
was
them
all
are
the
drunk.
result of some sort of mental breakdown, with both women somehow experiencing its effects at the same time. Today, this case is used as one of the most glaring examples of a psychological disorder known as folie à deux, in which one
Folie à
person
huh?
suffering from delusions transmits said delusions onto a different
Folie à
person,
deux?
leading to both people experiencing the same misconstrued version of reality. And while this is only a theory, it's clear that regardless of the how or why, these women were extremely mentally unwell during this event. In fact, during the TV program, an officer even mentioned that this could be a 136.
I'm gonna ask you for the rest of those.
Well, 136 if she is.
Which is a code that allows law enforcement to hold people on account of their mental health to ensure that they're safe to return to the public. But shockingly, not only did this never happen, but Sabina was released without ever being given a mental health assessment. In fact, she was never so much as looked over by a mental health professional, and was instead released the very next day after the incident. On top of this,
That's
when she was
stupid.
released, she was given no information about Ursula's whereabouts or her condition, or even resources to help find her way home, leaving Sabina still mentally unwell and now stranded in an unfamiliar city, not knowing what happened to her sister. And sadly, her delusions were far from over.
Of course it wasn't. Of course it was.
As she left the police station on the 19th of May, Sabina had nowhere to go, and so she began to wander, carrying her belongings in the same evidence bag that the police had given her earlier that day. Eventually, she would happen across 2 men walking their dogs, and as she stopped to pet them, Sabina asked the owners where the nearest hotel was. But seemingly recognizing that the woman wasn't well, one of the men, Glenn Hollenshed, offered to have her stay at his place, to which Sabina happily obliged. But once inside
That's
the house,
nice, but I don't
Sabina
think I'm
began
gonna just
acting extremely
let
paranoid,
some
checking
random
windows
girl
constantly,
live in my
believing
house.
that her cigarettes had been poisoned. Despite this, though, Hollenshed was
How you-
patient, and he helped
how
her
you
make
poison a
calls around
cigarette?
the
How is that
attack on
possible?
Ursula, while making sure that Sabina was eating and drinking. The following day, Hollenshed was preparing dinner for Sabina when he stepped out of the house to ask his neighbor for tea,
Who the hell poisons a cigarette? What?
and step out of the house. Only this time, he was completely covered in blood as he stumbled and screamed,
What?
"She stabbed me." As he collapsed to the ground,
This is
some
what
of the
you
rest
get
over to try and help, but the damage was already
For letting a
Hollenshed
random
would let out
mentally
one
ill
final
woman
soft
into your
whisper,
house.
saying, "Look after my dog for me," before breathing his final breath. For unknown reasons, in that house, Sabina had stabbed Glenn Hollenshed, and by the time law enforcement arrived, she was long gone.
Of course she
Outside the house
was.
With a hammer in her hand, which she
Oh
used to
my
strike her
gosh.
head repeatedly as she mumbled incoherently and walked down the sidewalk. Eventually, a man passing by tried to intervene, but Sabina immediately attacked, brandishing a roof tile that she had hidden in her pocket.
Sue,
using it to
bro.
strike her head,
Bro, these
leaving her
families need to
unconscious.
sue the
It would
hospital
take
that she
several
was in.
minutes for police to finally catch up with her. But just like
Why the
big
hell did
fire,
y'all let
she
her
took
into
off,
so-
leading
into
to
society,
scenes that
bro?
ended with Sabina being surrounded on a 40-foot tall bridge that passed over a highway, and recognizing that there was nowhere left for her to go, she jumped.
Of course she did. Now she's dead.
Somehow, Sabina would cheat death once again.
Bro, come on now, dawg. Come on, man.
A highway bridge, you know how tall that is? And she survived that? Like,
This is truly one of the most disturbing TV cases of all time. And for as shocking as it is on its own, what I find most chilling is the fact that these officers mentioned holding her for a psychiatric evaluation, which ultimately never happened.
You have the rest of those.
Well, 136 she is.
It was a massive oversight. In fact, it was so glaring that the police department allegedly contacted the show and asked them to remove this entire section. As if they had just followed through with that code 136, Sabina would have been held for longer than just one night.
Exactly.
Which meant that she not only may have been given the help she needed, but she also never would have had the chance to meet Glenn Hollinshed that fateful day.
Exactly.
Since her
Innocent person got killed for no reason, bro.
Disappeared from
Crazy.
the public eye, and neither she nor Ursula has ever been heard from again, meaning we have no idea whatever happened to the Erickson twins.
They just simply tend to be making the same decisions at the same times. They're thinking in the same way.
Super talent? The hell it is. I've never heard of that show before.
It's December 2021. A couple receives a warm welcome as they walk onto the stage, ready to compete in the Croatian television show Super Talent, the country's version of America's Got Talent.
That's what it reminded me of,
Excitement
yep.
from the crowd wasn't shared by the
Damn.
host,
Oh my
which
gosh.
someone standing behind the camera
I know exactly what I'm talking
with a
about.
look of concern. In the minutes prior, the audience at home was introduced to the pair, 34-year-old singer Roman Granada and his wife, 44-year-old violinist Bianca.
Yeah, those are definitely
Along with
fake,
their
but
child,
they're
who
still
would be
pretty to look at
watching
though.
to share their musical talents.
I
with
don't
the
mind.
In their day-to-day lives, Roman was a professional goalkeeper for a local soccer team, while Bianca was a professional violinist with a doctorate in music. And while on paper this all seems fairly normal, it was immediately clear to those watching that this couple was anything but. The two frequently went on long-winded and bizarre rants, with Bianca opening up about her breast enlargement surgery.
Yeah, I figured it was fake, but they still look nice though. I ain't gonna lie to you.
Their belief in a living God who walked the earth.
Oh, they're French. They're French.
But it was their performance itself that proved to be the strangest part of their time on the show.
Why?
Roman's introduction was fairly uncomfortable, as he made mention of a time that he had met one of the judges years before, who clearly had no recollection of the encounter, which seemed to frustrate him, as his demeanor quickly became hostile.
You seen, like, what's your talent?
Leading to Roman receiving his first X before he even sang a single note.
Can you, like, do something? So it's called super talent, not super talk and do nothing. Like,
It was a rough start for the couple, and by the time they did get to perform, things only got worse.
so he sings. Why she looking like that? She like. How you gonna argue with them?
Admittedly, the couple
How you
didn't
gonna
sound
argue with
awful,
them and then
but it was
expect
clear
them
the
to
judges
still
were
pass
frustrated
you?
by
Like,
Roman's
what?
demeanor, prompting all four of them to hit their X, signaling the end of the couple's performance. Or at
Turn.
least they thought.
Huh? What you mean?
As the two just kept on performing, playing over the sounds of the judges shouting their names and the deafening silence from the crowd.
They don't have security or something to get them off the stage?
With the two going
Like-
until a producer finally had to step in from behind the camera and officially cut them off.
Thank
Even then, the
you.
couple continued
Golly.
their antics, this time by protesting the judge's decision, with Bianca even threatening to go to the newspaper and expose their behavior to the press. All while Roman
What?
stood angrily to the
You
side,
argued
glaring at
with
the panel
them.
before him.
What do you mean?
And with that, Roman and Bianca's time on Super Talent was over, and And they not only walked away without receiving the grand prize, but they also left with shattered reputations, as this segment became notorious among fans of Super Talent, with the couple being considered one of the most unusual acts to ever feature on the show. But despite its virality, this performance isn't what Roman is most widely remembered for today.
What? What the fuck?
On February 6th, 2022, residents
What?
in Rijeka, Croatia were met with the sight of a fully nude man wandering the city streets. It was Roman Bernata. And while most stared on in amusement, laughing to themselves and snapping photos, what they were witnessing
End video.
was
End the video
one of the
now.
most disturbing events.
What?
Roman
That's
continued to
crazy.
pursue a career
Wow.
in singing, taking every
Wow.
opportunity he could to
That's-
share his
that's
music
crazy
with the
work.
world, often joining Bianca on
Ain't no
YouTube
fucking
channel
way that
and
this
singing on the
nigga
streets
really
for
walk
tips,
nude
where he actually
in the
made a
street.
decent amount of money. Though because of his notorious television moment, he would often be harassed and even have the money he earned stolen from him. One day, while performing outside of a local soup kitchen, he was introduced to a woman named Darnika Krebic, a 67-year-old who relied on the soup kitchen for consistent meals. And after hearing Roman sing, she became a legitimate fan of his music, leading to the two striking up a friendship.
What
And
happened to
despite
his
Darnika not
girl?
having much, she offered to take Roman to a local coffee shop on February 6th, 2022, where she treated him to a warm cup of tea on a cold winter day.
Okay.
And so the two sat inside a restaurant called the Cafe Pin, with everything seeming completely normal, until a server noticed that Roman started to look almost sickly, like he could barely keep himself upright, as his body was starting to slump over the table, his eyes barely open. The server rushed over to help, but Roman recoiled and
Maybe he's
shouted,
just hungry or something.
"Just try calling the police on me." And so, not wanting to escalate things, the server left, only returning later to drop off their check, which is when Roman's behavior took an even more drastic turn.
Oh, brother.
He began feeling around his pants pocket for his wallet, before looking desperately around the table, but there was no sign of it. And so he grabbed Darnika's bag and rifled through it, before yelling, "You snake, you whore, where's my wallet?" But when he still
How the
couldn't find
hell
it in
is he
Darnika's
supp-
bag,
she's supposed to
his
know where
anger
your wallet
turned
is?
to violence, as he stood up and rushed Darnika, grabbing her by the head and shaking her, screaming in her face, accusing her of being a thief.
Oh,
This
now
time,
you're going to
multiple
jail
people
for
inside
assault.
the
How do I
cafe
tell you?
rushed over to hold him back, but Roman was too strong, too angry, and with seemingly no effort at all, he pushed everyone away, completely unfazed by their attempts. In that moment, no one could have stopped Roman. Darnika was entirely helpless. So the crowd inside the cafe watched.
You just
Roman
watched?
grabbed her by the neck and dragged her behind the bar.
You just
and then
watched?
proceeded to kick, then stomp, and then jump.
She's
landing
dead.
on her over and over again.
She's
Each
dead.
time landing on her head.
She's dead.
It was a rage so demented that he actually began to smile a wide manic grin as he jumped and chanted, "Poor witch die."
And nobody's going to try to help the girl who's
The
getting
force
stomped
went out of the
out.
restaurant, leaving Darnika entirely unrecognizable and dead on the floor. The same floor where just feet away, Roman's wallet lay, having
Are you
innocently
serious?
fallen out of his pocket shortly before. Outside, Roman removed his blood-soaked clothes and walked completely naked into the
She
city
got
center,
curb
to the
stomped
amusement of the
like this was
passersby who had no idea
WWE.
what he had just
Going for the curb stomp Cena.
done.
That is crazy
Until eventually
work.
he made his way into a nearby police station and blankly stated, "I am not well."
But yeah, I can tell.
This
You just killed
sentiment was
innocent
true in
woman
so many
because
regards.
you dropped your wallet
Roman
on the
hadn't
floor.
been well
Like,
for quite a long time. Since a young age, it's believed he had dealt with undiagnosed schizophrenia that had led to uncontrollable anger issues, before developing an alcohol and substance abuse problem that only
he didn't go to jail for
exacerbated
murder?
symptoms. And by the time he was an adult, Roman became so delusional that he believed he was a disciple
even though
sent
he's
from
mentally
God
ill,
to touch the world
as he
with
still
music.
murdered somebody.
Something that he eventually convinced Bianca of as well. So in their Super Talent episode, when Bianca mentioned their love for a living God that walked the earth, she was likely referencing Roman.
Ali ja osjetim, stvarno imam taj kontakt sa
So
živim Bogom.
did she
Mislim da
break
je
up with
Bog
him?
svugdje oko nas, da je Bog osoba,
Because she
energija.
didn't know that he was
Istovremeno,
mentally ill?
da.
Roman was severely unwell, and no one in his life was keeping him in check. In fact, those closest with him were only feeding his delusions, with all of his issues coming to a head on the day of the incident. And when he realized his wallet was gone, Roman rushed to assume that Darnika was the one who robbed him, perhaps as a result of having his money stolen frequently on the streets. But the sad reality was, in a sea of people trying to exploit and mock Roman,
It's just
Rachel was one of the
crazy
few who
that
actually truly cared about
it was
her.
a bunch of
Legitimately
people
gave her
around
talents,
not doing
and
nothing.
yet he killed her in one of the most evil ways imaginable, all over a simple misunderstanding that was entirely his fault.
Exactly, because
In
it's
the end,
mental
Roman
issue.
Bernardo was deemed unfit to stand trial and was never sentenced to serve any jail time.
Why?
Instead, being given a 40-year sentence in a mental health facility.
Okay,
where
that's
his sentence
that's better
described as a
actually.
model
That's better
patient.
actually, because him going to
This
jail
good
got my
behavior
health
awarding him the
So that's
opportunity
better.
to leave the facility for days at a time for therapeutic purposes.
Nature is king here. Man can only watch and be humble.
There's nothing out there. It's your imagination.
Yeah, I can read that.
It was the start of yet another adventure for the crew of the television show Gardener's World.
Gardener's World.
This
That's
British
what I said?
program has been on the air since the 1960s.
Oh, yeah,
It provides viewers
definitely
with tips on how to maintain their garden while showing off a variety of
Holy
unique plant
moly.
life, which often brought them to remote areas of the globe. This particular episode was filmed on February 5th, 2020, in the Drakensberg mountain range of Lesotho, Africa, with the host, Nick Bailey, making the long journey to track down one specific flower.
One
Right.
species which grows wild all over the country and has been a real favourite with British gardeners for generations is the gladiolus.
This delicate flower would have been familiar with many of the show's viewers, as it was quite popular in the UK. But in this region, there existed a unique species that had only been seen a handful of times in the last century, since it only grew in one particular valley in this one particular mountain range. Its scientific name is the Gladiolus microcarpus, and there were two people who knew it better than anyone else. Rod and Rachel Saunders were well-renowned botanists who studied the world of South
Oh,
African
botanists.
flowers in depth, with their favorite being the gladioli, as they would spend days and even months on end roaming areas just like this to learn everything they could about them, making them the perfect duo to help with the show.
Why
Alright,
gladioli?
so this
There's
is like-
so many
they're
different
explorers,
species
okay.
in South Africa you could have picked.
I think they're beauty. Some of them are so exquisitely beautiful, you actually just want to sit down and cry when you see them.
But even with their vast knowledge of this region, there was always an element of danger when traversing it. Its climate is often volatile, and conditions are known to turn on a dime, making safely navigating this area extremely difficult to downright impossible. This was apparent even on the day of filming, as a dense fog had rolled in, and given the steep and rocky landscape, one wrong step could spell disaster. This didn't stop the crew from carrying onward though, as Rod and Rachel were relentless in their pursuit. They would do anything to find these flowers, and sure enough, the segment ended as they did exactly that.
We've come about 4 times looking for this plant, and this is the best I've ever seen it. It is looking absolutely gorgeous.
With that, Rod and Rachel's time on Gardener's World was over, but their journey through this area certainly wasn't. As the cameras cut, the crew made their way back to their makeshift base camp miles away, where they said their goodbyes, with Nick Bailey capturing a photo with a beloved couple and sharing it onto Twitter before parting ways, leaving the couple behind. As rather than returning to their home in Cape Town, this was actually just the start of what would be a multi-month expedition into this region, with the Ngoi Forest Reserve being their final destination. Along with being botanists, the couple were also avid seed collectors, and had started a business which shipped the seeds they had found to other plant lovers around the world. And while here, they made it their mission
they
to
made
find
money
some
off
of these
it, okay.
ultra-rare gladioli seeds. And sure enough, on February 8th, 2020, Rod and Rachel sent a text to one of their employees at the seed mailing business, which contained a photo of the exact flower they were looking for. But despite this text seeming like a sign of more good things to come, the reality was far more bleak, as this text would ultimately be the last the couple would ever send. Out of nowhere, communication with Rod and Rachel had stopped entirely, and for days no one heard anything from the duo,
Oh, they're
prompting
dead.
that
How do I
same
tell you?
employee
They're
they had
dead.
sent the image to report them as
They're
missing
dead.
on the 10th of February. It was a devastating turn of events, but one that was always a possibility. Poor weather, a wrong turn, an injury, anything could have derailed their expedition, as again, this area was notoriously dangerous, with it seeming all but certain that they had fallen victim to the unpredictable fury of Mother Nature, though this belief would quickly shift, thanks to the discovery of the couple's car.
Oh, I just
found by
noticed we haven't
authorities
got no
abandoned
video.
by the
Oh my
edge of
gosh.
the Tula
We
River,
didn't
and had been
have
emptied
no
of virtually
commercials.
everything
Video,
inside.
nothing.
However, there was something left behind, as in the trunk, authorities would find a massive pool of blood.
Oh God.
Blood that belonged to Rachel. Just days after filming, Rod and Rachel were making their way towards the Ngoi Forest Reserve, growing more and more excited by the discoveries they were making, oblivious to the fact that in the woods around them, They were being watched, hunted even, and
By
not
who?
by an animal, but rather by a man.
What the
His
fuck?
name was Saifuddin Aslam Delvicio, a local of the area that the couple was traversing. And on
Okay.
February 9th, he allegedly sent a text to his wife, Bibi Patel, telling her that he had found a good target, and that he was now in pursuit,
Why the fuck are you
with said
hunting
target
humans?
being Rod and Rachel. Later that night, the couple made their camp and began to drift off in their tent, while Delvicio allegedly watched on. And once he was certain that they had
Why?
fallen asleep, he made his move, approaching the tent, then tearing it open, and then standing above the couple.
What the fuck?
In the following moments, Rod and Rachel would be brutally bludgeoned to death before they could even react, as they lay helplessly, still inside their sleeping bags.
What the
Text
fuck?
messages indicate that Delvicio then enlisted the help
Why?
of his wife, Bibi, as well as his friend Musa Jackson, to help discard the bodies, using the couple's own car to transport them to
Why?
a place they were certain they would never be found.
What was the point of that?
The Tagula River.
What do you gain? What do you
But
gain
there was
from
something
that?
about this stretch of water that they believed would make these bodies impossible to find. Crocodiles. And so they pulled up to the banks of the river as the crocodiles quietly watched on from a distance and dumped the bodies of Rod and Rachel into the water, where they were immediately devoured. They thought it was the perfect plan. However, it thankfully failed to work as well as they had hoped, as in the following weeks, fishermen would happen upon both
Oh,
of the
that's
corpses,
crazy.
or at least what remained
Oh, that's
of them,
crazy.
as they were in such bad shape that it would take nearly 2 full months for them to be identified.
God damn.
As for why this attack happened, we still don't fully know, as the trial is still ongoing, with Delvicio proclaiming his innocence, which is why everything is alleged at the moment. But the evidence
Alleged.
is damning. Messages on Delvicio's phone paint a clear picture that he was responsible for this, with his motive appearing to be religious differences between him and the Saunders, as well as money, as after the slayings, large sums of money were withdrawn
That's
from the couple's bank
fucking
accounts, along
Oh,
with lavish
they have a
purchases
different.
being made on their credit
They
cards,
believe in a different
with one
God
of the
than me, so
receipts
let's
from
kill
the
them.
shopping spree being found inside of Bibi's purse.
What the fuck?
The
That
evidence
don't
is
make no damn
almost
sense.
impossible
That's
to
stupid.
deny.
That's
But
a
while we
stupid
wait for
reason
justice to be
to
served,
ruin
it's important to refocus on
can't
those who
talk,
won't be here to see
to
it
ruin your
happen.
life.
Rod and Rachel truly did nothing wrong.
Exactly.
They were two incredibly wholesome people who were just trying to find and connect with the flower that they loved so dearly. And while our interview days before their death is an undeniably dark television moment, it also serves as an incredible tribute, as one of the last things they ever did in their lives was share their love and passion for gladioli with the world, the flower that they ultimately gave their lives to find.
What a trek to get here, and what an incredible
R.I.P.,
treat to see
bro.
such a special
They did not deserve to die,
nation
bro. That was
environment.
fucking crazy,
Thank you.
man. They did not deserve to die, bro.
Nice to be here.
Gets to a point, bro. We'll be right away. Hopefully y'all did enjoy that video, man. Make sure to hit that like button and subscribe. Turn those notifications for more scary videos like this, man. That being said, man, it's your boy B2 Summer, man. Comment Cypher though. Make sure, like I said before, make sure y'all put some suggestions in the comments. It's your boy B2 Summer, man. Comment Cypher though. Till next time.